The chair of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, joins me now. All right, Congressman, you're the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. What can you do about these judges blocking Trump's policies?
Well, we plan hearings for next week. I think Senator Grassley also planning some hearings in the Senate to look at this whole issue. But I think Pam is right. When you think about particularly this Judge Boasberg, I mean, his decision made no sense. And what the president did, I think, was consistent with the Constitution. Article 1, Section 2, very first sentence, executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States. So he's, I think, on strong constitutional ground, separation of power ground. Second, the Alien Enemies Act, it talks about a predatory incursion. Certainly these bad guys in this gang who came here illegally and did terrible things, that's a predatory incursion. And for a judge then third to say what he did makes absolutely no sense. Think about this judge, Stuart. He said, turn the plane around, bring the bad guys back to the country. That makes no sense. So I think the president's on strong ground, and I think what this judge is doing is out of bounds, and we plan on having hearings on this issue and the broader issue of all these injunctions that have been issued by judges that have implications for the entire country.
Congressman, Elon Musk recently addressed the violent attacks on Teslas and Tesla dealerships. Watch this.
If you read the news, it feels like, Armageddon. So it's like, I can't walk past the TV without seeing a Tesla on fire. You're like, what's going on? Some people, it's like, listen, I understand if you don't want to buy our product, but you don't have to burn it down. That's a bit unreasonable, Like, this is psycho. Stop being psycho.
Okay. Elon Musk. Attorney General Pam Bondi says consequences will be swift and severe. Watch this, Jim.
People need to know that 3 people in custody right now, they will receive severe and swift consequences, and they are facing up to 20 years in prison. We are not negotiating these. This is domestic terrorism. And Maria, now you have this Congresswoman Crockett who is calling for attacks on Elon Musk on her birthday. Let's take him out on my birthday, she says. And yet she turns and says, oh, I'm not calling for violence. Well, she is an elected public official. And so she needs to tread very carefully because nothing will happen to Elon Musk.
Congressman, do you think the Democrats are inciting this violence?
Well, it sure seems that way, and I think Pam is right. If you do something wrong, if you're involved in firebombing these Teslas and going after these dealerships, there should be real consequences because that's a crime. That is wrong, and it sure looks like domestic terrorism to me as well, and I think the country appreciates that. I think the bigger takeaway for the American people is just how crazy the Democrats have become. I mean, I think this is really now a divide between crazy on the Democrat side, the left that controls their party, and common sense, as President Trump always says about Republicans. We're the party of common sense, and you can just go down the list. It's crazy to firebomb Teslas. It's crazy not to have a border. It's crazy to defund the police. It's crazy to say men should compete against women in sports. And, of course, that judge's decision, it's crazy to tell the president, the commander-in-chief, turn the plane around, bring the violent gang members from Venezuela who've done terrible things to children and families and Americans who are here illegally, turn that plane around and bring him back. That makes no sense. And so the country sees it all for what it is. And I think the Attorney General is exactly right. You do some criminal activity, you're going to pay the cost because that's how it works in this in our great system.
Congressman, you were with the president this weekend at the NCAA Wrestling Championship.
Fun time.
He seemed to be having a grand old time. He really enjoyed himself, didn't he?
Yeah, but particularly that last match. I mean, I don't think that Wyatt Hendrickson, the athlete from Oklahoma State, in that heavyweight match, I don't think he wins that match but for President Trump being there. As you know the backstory, he's an Air Force Academy graduate. He's going to serve in our military. And, the salute he gave the president, I think that was because the guy he's wrestling is literally one of the baddest guys on the planet, Olympic champ, national champ, and Wyatt beats this guy. I don't think that happens but for President Trump being there. And the wrestling people, this is working class, middle class people. They just love the president's attitude. I always tell people, the president has an athlete's mindset. He hates to lose. And you see that. That's why he loves sports, because it's that athlete's mindset. And the people appreciate that. And certainly the wrestling community appreciates him being there and appreciates the mindset he brings to work every single day for the American people.
Weren't you a wrestling champion in college?
Way back when.
Very competitive.
Stuart.
You had to win. Doesn't matter how long ago it was. You like to win, don't you?
Well, winning beats losing every time. And again, President Trump understands that. I think all athletes sort of get that. But I also believe it's broader than that. I think Americans aren't losers. Americans are winners. And we appreciate people with that mindset. It's why we love sports. It's why we love President Trump so much.
Got it. Congressman Jim Jordan, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you.